and that the 80-day trough should not be placed here. But now you must bear in mind that the 40-day FLD and the 20-day FLD are based upon the cycles that are presented in the analysis. So if we don't present the 40-day, the 80-day trough over here, instead perhaps we place it over there. Let's say that's the 80-day trough. Let's say that's the first, let me do it properly. That's the 80-day trough. Then this is in fact only a 20-day trough, and this is a 40-day trough. I'm just really guessing. But as soon as we reposition the troughs, okay, your VTLs and your FLDs move, okay, which means that those crosses that we find over there will suddenly disappear from your chart because you have a different VTL or you have a different FLD. Okay, is my monitor still going? Yeah. Okay, so what Sentient Trader does in its analysis is it considers all the options. Okay, one of the options is that this VTL and FLD cross has occurred, but in fact it doesn't confirm the but in fact there's something unresolved here, so it hasn't resolved it. And it considers many different options. It considers thousands of options of analyses in this last time frame, and it's considered every single one of them. It's placed the 80-day trough over there, and it's seen how that breaks down. It's placed the 80-day trough over there, probably over there, probably over there. It's placed them in all those places to find the best solution. What it's presenting now is the best solution. Do you be about this? To be honest, I don't believe it is of concern at all. Is that the Sentient Trader is always looking forward to what's happening next. At the time at which price crossed there, we probably would have generated a buy signal because it was expecting a trough. So the buy signal would have been generated. In fact, let me go back to 65.45. 65.45, and let me do that. In the meantime, I'll answer some questions. On the advanced side of the trade settings, okay. Harshara, go for lower time frame. Yes, okay. I think that was an answer to a previous question. Did you get an entry there? Okay, I think that's what I'm about to answer now. Why would the FLD change? It has displaced price. Yes, but the amount that it gets displaced, Stuart, depends on the actual wavelength of the cycle that is found. As the analysis changes, the actual wavelength of the cycle changes, generally not very much, but it changes a little bit. If you have a look down at the bottom of your chart, you'll see that the 40-day cycle is currently running at 35.7 days. Okay, I have taken this analysis back. What did I do with that trade? What was the level of that trade? Okay, where did that trade go? Okay, I'm not, okay, sorry, I know this is my software, I've just been really stupid. If you don't see trading information on your software, first thing you should always do is check whether the trading button has been clicked. If the trading button has been clicked, then you will see the trading information. Okay, so here we are, we've gone back to the 22nd of August, whenever that was, about 10 days ago, last Monday I think, and you can see Sentient Trader, because of VTLs and FLDs, recommended a long entry at this level over here. Let's step forward and see what would have happened. We click that button and we can step forward by bar. The software, of course, has to reanalyze, and we can see what the software would have done. So I think that answers Lynn's question. Did you get an entry there? Yes, in fact, we did, and now we're having a look to see what that did. Stuart, why would the FLD change its displaced price? Okay, and Elaine concurs with Stuart. There are two different measures of, I need to wait for the analysis to complete. There are two different lengths that we talk about, and you'll often hear me saying, when I talk about the 4-day cycle, okay, Sentient Trader asks to confirm the trade. Let's say yes, okay, and there's a stop loss level. Let's view our model panel. Let's talk about these cycles. Okay, I hope that you can read this. And I'm going to turn on that whiteboard again. I'm really enjoying that whiteboard today. Okay. We talk about our trading cycle is the 40-day cycle. Okay. We call it the 40-day cycle because that's like a name. We could call it Peter or John or Tom, Dick or Harry, but we call it the 40-day cycle because that's its name. And it's an easy name to banter around. The length of it is approximately 40 days. Okay? In fact, if you did extensive research, the kind of research that Hurst did back in the 1970s, and he did extremely extensive research, we have done quite a lot of research, not anywhere near as much as Hurst did, but we found the same thing generally to be true. In stocks, the actual average length of what we call the 40-day cycle is 34.1 days. 34.1 days. Okay? We call it the 40-day cycle. So the correct way of speaking about it is to say the nominal 40-day cycle. Nominal is the name we've given it. So it's called the 40-day cycle. Okay? It'll be really, I sometimes have trouble. I keep talking about 40 weeks instead of 40 days and 20 days instead of 20 weeks. It's hard enough as it is talking about all these different cycles without having to say the 34.1 day cycle. So it's much easier just calling it the 40-day cycle. Okay, so we're trading the 40-day cycle. The nominal length, in other words, the average, if you study tens of thousands of stocks as Hurst did, is in fact 34.1 days. Okay? What is the current cycle? One of the principles of Hurst's cyclic theory, variation, which indicates the cycle lengths are constantly varying. One of the questions he never answered is by what percentage do they vary? Sentient Trader, it was quite an integral part of developing the software, has to make a call on that, and it allows a variation, so that you know, of 65% to 150%. That's the variation Sentient Trader allows on cycles, and there are various mathematical reasons for that, but I won't bore you with those now. So what is the actual length of the cycle at the moment? The actual length, you can see it here if you can read that. Our designers never quite got that of a grey colouring. Anyway, the actual length is 35.7 days. 35.7. Okay, you might say it's only 1.6 days difference. Yes, you're right, it's only 1.6 days difference, but that's because that cycle is running pretty close. As I mentioned, Sentient Trader allows a difference in length from 65 to 150%. So, in fact, we could have a length anything from it's about 26 days, is it 27 days, to about 51 days. So, if the actual length was 51 days, then there would be a big difference. Now, the FLD is displaced price. That's all it is. You displace the price to the right by the wavelength. And it's important that you displace the price not by the nominal wavelength, because the nominal wavelength has no meaning on the chart that we're currently analyzing. You displace the price by the actual wavelength. In fact, you displace it by the actual wavelength, you displace it by half the actual wavelength. So, if the current wavelength was 51 bars, which it could be, 51 days, then we'd be displacing price by 25 bars, roughly. In fact, you add ones, it's 26, but we displace it by roughly half the wavelength. When we're displacing this, or when Sentient Trader is displacing this 35.8, call it 38, then half of, 36, the half of 36 is 18. So there is, in fact, a 7-bar difference between the placing of the FLD on a 35.7 cycle and a 51-day cycle. But they are both the 40-day cycle. So when the analysis changes, your FLD could jump by up to 7 bars. Okay? Let's imagine here that the that the FLD jumped by 7 bars. If this FLD, which is on this date, currently at this, let me do this properly. I'm loving this whiteboard. Okay, and turn it on. So here's the FLD on this bar. If we went forward by 7 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then in fact we would plot that over there. So in fact this FLD would be displaced quite a lot. When you're making very fine, detailed trading decisions, a 7-day displacement of that FLD makes a really big difference. It can make a difference between profit and loss, basically. Okay, I hope that explains that. Calendar. Elaine asks whether those are calendar days. Yes, absolutely, Elaine. Everything to do with Hurst's theory has to do with calendar days. As I'm very fond of saying, the cycles don't know when we're taking holidays. So in this chart, there are blank days, of course, displaced here. Saturday and Sunday are always blank. There's a Saturday, Sunday. There's a Saturday, Sunday. They're always displaced in a blank, as a blank point in the chart, because the cycles are still moving. Cycles are always moving, whether we're lying by the beach or whether we're trading the markets. And it's one of the reasons why markets jump over weekends. There's a very interesting discussion to be had about that, about why sometimes they jump and sometimes they don't jump. Very interesting discussion. I don't think it's as straightforward as cycles move, keep moving. In fact, I'm developing a theory called the relativity of cycles. It's an advanced form of Einstein's general relativity theory, but I believe time bends. But we'll have to talk about that some other time. Right. And that answers Stuart's question. Peter, any dates for the workshop in Australia and a location? In fact, Peter, we're tying that down this week. We've had a really great response. Lots of people have said they're interested in attending that workshop. So we are tying down the details this week, and we will get back to you, I expect, early